between July and August.
And what's happening?
What's the probability?
What's happening between July, August 2001?
Well, basically nothing.
Oh, shit!
We're creating our future. Much of our future, that our belief systems, is being focused on the Book of Revelations, on other prophetic disasters that are to occur.
So you're talking about self-fulfilling prophecy?
Right. We're literally going to create it. We're literally going to create our own demise.
Wait. Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! What? Oh my God! It's terrorist activity! Guys, what do we do?
New York City by the year 2000 will not be there. It will be ash. It will be sacrificed. It's going to be sacrificed. It's the powers that be have already made that decision.
Holy shit! What happened? Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
Sacrificed. It'll be a sacrifice.
What does that mean?
An offering. An offering. Those souls that live there, their energy is going to be an offering. An act of terrorism would turn it to ash.
In 1994, then again in 1996, Alex Collier, real name Ralph Amagron, made a prediction that New York City would fall to a terrorist attack and be covered in ash by the year 2000. He claimed he was given this information by fifth dimensional entities known as Andromedans. He claimed the people of New York City were given as an offering for their life force energy to be siphoned by fourth dimensional entities which people in the past have labelled as demons. In this video, we will take a look at these claims looking at the metaphysical side of 9/11. On September the 11th, 2001, 4 coordinated aerial attacks were carried out on American soil. The first attack occurred at 8:46 AM when American Airlines Flight 11 crashed into New York's North Tower of the World Trade Center. The second attack occurred 12 minutes later at 9:03 when United Airlines Flight 175 crashed into the South Tower of the World Trade Center. 34 minutes later, the third attack occurred at 9:37 AM when American Airlines Flight 77 crashed into the Pentagon in Virginia. After this, the fourth and final flight, United Airlines 93, crashed into a field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania at 10:03 AM. 3 towers at the New York crash site collapsed, leaving the city in a hazy fog. The attacks killed 2,996 people, injured over 6,000 others, along with the additional people who died of 9/11 related cancer and respiratory disease in the months and years following the attacks. On the day of the attacks, people worldwide produced a staggering amount of destructive life force energy. Life force energy is simply the energy we produce during our everyday lives. During everyday life, we are constantly creating waves of energy. For example, when our heart beats, it creates pulsations of flowing blood throughout our body. This is a slow vibration of energy at work. When we breathe using our lungs, this also creates slow pulsing waves of energy in which we use. When we talk, we create faster waves of vibrational energy within the space around us. When we listen, our ears take in one type of vibrational energy and creates another in which our brain can understand. Our body language and usage also creates vibrational energy through sound, heat, and so on. This energy is known as life force energy, also called Loosh energy. Loosh energy originates from a series of vibrational actions in the carbon-oxygen cycle, and the residue produced is Loosh. This Loosh varies in degrees of purity. The clearest and most potent comes from humans. Loosh is generated by all organic life. The production occurs only during the action taking and reactive process. Loosh is energy produced by us due to our thoughts. The thought will depend on if the Loosh produced is constructive or destructive. These being the 2 polarities which are produced. Under these come various different polarities, positive and negative, joy and pain, love and hate, and so on. For example, you react to a person's question with Loosh depending on how you feel about the question asked. This Loosh energy is released into the 0-point field. This is a field of energy which penetrates space-time both inside and out. Throughout all dimensions consists solely of this field of energy. This is known as 0-point energy. 0-point energy is called this because if you were to cool the universe down to 0, where all thermal motions are frozen, this energy still exists. This energy surrounds us at every moment within the space we're in. Basically, the empty space in the universe isn't actually empty. It contains 0-point energy fields. 0-point energy fields are also known as zero-point fields, the M field, the morphic field, and the source field. We are constantly interacting with each other with this life force energy. This is known as field interference. For example, if you're out in public minding your own business while looking on your phone, if you come across something you don't like, you will react with destructive life force energy. This life force energy is then released into the 0-point field and perceived by others. This perception has commonly become called a person's vibe. For example, if there are two people in a room and one is releasing destructive life force energy while the other is releasing constructive life force energy, this creates field interference. So the person who is producing constructive life force energy may say to the destructive person that they are killing their vibe. This is if the destructive person is attempting to make the constructive person to produce destructive energy and vice versa. Therefore, birds of a feather flock together. Those who are in constant destructive thought forms will group with destructive people, while those who are in constant constructive thought forms will group with constructive people. In the 1990s, a global consciousness project started setting up devices known as electrodiagrams around different parts of the world. These devices pick up and record the life force energy we release. On the day of September the 11th, they recorded spikes in the data as not only the victims but people around the world reacted with destructive life force energy to the events they were witnessing. They also saw spikes in their data on the day of Princess Diana's funeral, and it also occurs after natural disasters. As this life force energy is released into the 0-point field, it also affects a planetary field as they are pretty much one in the same. The planetary field is the localized measurement. If there is more destructive life force energy within the field over constructive, then the planetary field becomes out of balance. As we are unknowingly reacting to this energy every day, if it is out of balance, it causes us to think in destructive thought forms over constructive, therefore becoming even more pulled to the destructive polarity. This is only if we allow the destructive energy to interfere with us. So from this, we learn that 9/11 caused destructive life force energy to be released into the 0-point field. This affected the planetary field and made more of us react with destructive thought forms or destructive life force energy. This can be seen from the events following 9/11. After 9/11, President Bush declared a war on terror and the US invaded Afghanistan and Iraq in the early 2000s. This led to the Middle East being destroyed, leading to further Islamic extremist groups forming who have carried out many terrorist attacks since 2001. Along with this, many people were killed in the wars that were carried out. The destruction of the Middle East led to the European migrant crisis, with Muslims leaving their battered homeland taking refuge in Europe. This led to many terrorist attacks to be carried out in Europe since the migrant crisis began in 2015. 9/11, which led to the migrant crisis, created the total number of forcibly displaced people worldwide to 60 million people, which became the highest level since World War II. After the Libyan civil war and the capture of Gaddafi, the migrant crisis led to Africans migrating to Libya, which has now caused the Libyan human slave trade. Not only did 9/11 affect TSA laws, but also surveillance laws, as Congress passed a law that absolved AT&T of any legal liability for cooperating with warrantless spying. All of these events could have been seen as crimes against humanity and caused mass amounts of destructive life force energy, causing the cycle to continue as we react to it when we see it on the media or when perceiving the energy of the victims. Therefore, we allow the destructive energy to affect us and start producing destructive life force energy, affecting the people in our surroundings. If the surrounding people allow the perceived destructive life force energy to affect them, then they start producing it, and so on. While encompassed in the Earth's magnetic field, it takes approximately 10 minutes for a single release of life force energy to reach and be perceived by every person in the world. Therefore, every 10 minutes globally, we are reacting to the thought forms or life force energy we released 10 minutes ago. The Global Consciousness Project saw spikes in the data just moments before the attacks and other events which they recorded. This was as if people knew it was coming. This is due to the 10-minute delay on perception of the energy. This could also explain why animals react to natural disasters before us. The energy will affect those in your radius almost instantaneously. Therefore, collectively, we're creating our future every 10 minutes. This future will depend on if we're producing either more constructive or destructive life force energy. This can be seen from the 9/11 timeline. So these are the facts of the metaphysical effect 9/11 had on the planet. We will now take a look at the alien theory behind it. A 2015 poll showed 80% of Americans believe in the existence of aliens. 5 to 6% of the global population claim to have been abducted by aliens. During these experiences, the abductees claim they are experimented on and have their eggs and semen removed from their bodies. Not only this, but they claim other people, including men, women and children, are kept captive on board the ships for an alien-human hybrid program. If you watch the abductees' hypnosis regression tapes, you can see that by reliving the event, they believe they've actually experienced an abduction. So if the aliens were to exist, who or what are they? The so-called aliens are said to be inter- and extra-dimensional entities who exist within the different dimensions of the universe. Bell Laboratories, through experimentation, figured out our visual reality of the third dimension functions on a wavelength of 7.23 centimeters. As you increase in dimensions, the wavelength becomes shorter and shorter with higher and higher energy. If you were to change the wavelength of your consciousness, which in result would change your body patterns, then you would disappear from this dimension and appear in one with a wavelength other than 7.23 centimeters. Every time we go to sleep, we phase our consciousness from the third dimension to the fourth dimension. The fourth dimension has become known as the astral plane. Consciousness is intelligent energetic waveforms of awareness. It is what we are as our essence, taking away the ego and personality formed by our human experience. We are consciousness having a human experience. Think of the human body as a virtual reality for the consciousness. Our 7.23 centimeter third dimensional reality has a color spectrum of 72 frequencies. The fifth dimension has a color spectrum of 123 frequencies. The consciousness animates the physical body. The combination of the two creates a production of loosh. So if you were to think of it as while we're awake, we are consciousness having a human experience. We are temporarily experiencing the third dimension until our consciousness passes on and experiences the other dimensions for eternity. So if the extra dimensional entities were real, then their reality is consciousness having an alien experience. Although there are many different aspects to it, when it comes down to it, we are all the same consciousness which we receive from the highest wavelength of our local universe, having different dimensional experiences. Abductees, contactees and out-of-body explorers have reported witnessing reptilian-type entities. Robert Monroe, who was a pioneer in the exploration of consciousness, claimed the most frequent entities which have been seen in the fourth dimensional astral plane were alligator-type entities.
But mind you, these are not human forms.
Okay.
That's the interesting thing to realize. One of the ones that we've encountered most, oddly enough, is we call it the alligator system.
Okay.
Because the physical body there, it resembles very much an alligator.
Okay.
But it has an intelligence equal or superior to ours.
But they look like alligators.
They look like alligators.
What is a lifespan for one of these alligator type?
Oh, about, as near as we can figure it, about 300 years. Of our type of years.
In his book Far Journeys, he wrote that he found the planet was being used as a loosh farm by entities who are energy vampires. He claimed after he found this out, he stayed depressed for weeks producing destructive life force energy. It's said that when humans die, if they're afraid of death or die under fearful traumatic circumstances, their last outburst of loosh energy generated by the body is released and harvested by transdimensional beings. These beings are believed to use it to extend their own lifespan and create aspects of their environment in the lower fourth dimension. The claim is that Earth is a giant garden used by these beings as their food source. Therefore, from seeing the spikes of destructive life force energy, the victim's last outburst of destructive loosh would have been harvested by these beings along with the loosh produced by the alive population who witnessed the event. On 9/11, many orbs can be seen around the towers during the time of the attack.
Okay, talking to your subconscious, John, are there any other incidents that you want to recall at this point?
Just don't worry about it, darling. It's all right. It's all right. We're protected.
Okay, can you tell me what's happening?
Stephanie's seen what she called a really big orb outside. It's the other side's disc in flight, in cloak.
You're saying is this an energy orb?
Yes.
How big is it?
200, 300 feet. In diameter, as big as the moon.
What's the year?
2008.
And the date?
March. 12 March.
So what's this orb represent to you?
Being watched.
Why was it important for Stephanie to see it?
I was supposed to see it too. She called me, but I was too long.
She saw it, but you didn't.
Yes. Nothing to worry about. They can't hurt us. They're too strong.
Who is they?
Zeta Reticulates. You know them as the Greys.
There's also another factor, and that is that they actually feed off the energy. They're vampires.
The Zeta Reticulant Greys.
The Greys, right. They're vampires. They feed off the energy. They can even bottle the energy and use it for later times. They're also stealing the vital bodies of human beings.
These beings seem to take, and this is why I called it the collectors, they seem to collect all kinds of things from us. But it's not just on a physical level like our blood and our eggs, the sperm and stuff like that. This also includes your emotional, your spirit, your soul, so to speak, your essence. I remember specifically one incident where I was inside a ship and there was this huge column in the center of this room, and there were all like hundreds of what seemed to be little thin drawers in there. Anyways, to make the long story short, when I asked what was in there, I was told telepathically that it was the essence of man. And that has stayed with me forever, because I don't know exactly what they meant by that. Is it our spirit, our soul, our essence, or is it, is it just DNA or whatever? I wasn't sure.
Now, let's explore this a little bit more carefully.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly did you feel at that moment? Because you must have had some sense of a feeling of what it might have been.
Well, it's strange because I didn't know at first that there was something in there. When I got closer to the column, I had a very, very strong feeling that whatever was in there was extremely important to us. I had to know what was in there. And when I asked, I was first refused. They said, it is not for you to know at this time. And I said, well, you don't know me very well. I replied that one way or another, I was going to figure out what was in there. And as a couple of them were pulling me away, this taller one, who seemed to be a gray but taller than them, and had more of a bony structure in the face area, in the head area, he said to me telepathically, it is the essence of man.
Some have witnessed these military helicopters chasing small glowing balls of light above the crop circles.
Without any doubt, the balls of light are a real phenomenon. Okay. Definitely. In fact, by the East Field, we have Golden Ball Hill, which has been called Golden Ball Hill for probably centuries. The reason being, golden balls of light have been seen there for so long. The military and our government have known about the real phenomenon for many, many years.
Now there are two possible explanations for these orbs. The first is it is simply dust from the buildings reflecting light being picked up by the cameras. The second explanation is these are the entities who haven't fully phased into the 7.23 centimeter wavelength, therefore only appearing as their consciousness. They would have been in an interdimensional zone between the third and fourth dimension while they were harvesting the loosh. Dr. Stephen Greer, along with many others, can summon these orbs.
Orange object. Look how beautiful.
Whoa.
Oh my God.
Whoa, just don't pop
stand
too
up,
much.
Please crouch down and look, because you'll block our cameras.
Wow.
Those behind me may move and stand up. Okay, that, you see that color?
Yeah. That's not a plane.
No. Oh no.
No, that's a ship.
So let's thank them for coming.
Wow, and it's above the sea level.
Please turn off your night scope, Charles. Off.
Someone's infrared or whatever.
Yeah, that's Charles.
Oh, whoa.
Oh, here they come. There are two.
Whoever's right in the front, if you can kind of just stay low, because your head is right.
You can get on your knees in front of Richie. Look at this, how gorgeous.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so I'm looking with the night scopes. There's no smoke, there's no trails. These are not flares. And
oh my goodness.
Okay, let's welcome them here.
Oh, they're so beautiful.
They were waiting for us to arrive.
Whoa.
Jacques, please photograph. Yeah. All cameras should be filming. So connect to them in your consciousness and invite them here. These are the golden ones I talked about.
Which has been called Golden Ball Hill for probably centuries. The reason being, golden balls of light have been seen there for so long.
The orbs can also be seen on video when people interact with an Ouija board. I myself caught one of these orbs on tape while making a video in 2016 when I used a homemade Ouija board. During World War II, the aerial fighters referred to these orbs as Foo Fighters. On March 5, 2004, the Mexican Air Force witnessed 11 of these orbs and caught them on tape. Robert Bingham is another person who claims he is able to summon these orbs. In downtown Los Angeles on February 22, 2014, he organized a mass sighting where an orb appeared and began to partially form. The orbs interface and change their wavelength of consciousness from a shorter wavelength of the dimension they're in to the 7.23 centimeter wavelength we're in. This is when they appear in our dimension and are caught on tape. So if these reptilian entities are real, then who are they? So if these entities are real, here is the information which has been gathered about them. This information comes from abductees, contactees, and those who can travel out of body. The Alpha Draconians are also known as the Dracs, the Reptilians, and the Seeker. The word Drac is Romanian, which translates to devil.
They're ugly looking, lizard, alligator type people. They got the same skin as the lizards got. Okay, and terrible looking faces.
They're ugly. I mean, they think we're ugly too, you know, and I guess it's all a matter of perspective and belief system. In my belief system, and I'm only taking responsibility for me, they're ugly. They're reptilian. Whenever you see one, you ought to just run like hell. You shouldn't approach it, you shouldn't provoke it, just get the hell out of its way Just get out of its way, just run.
They're believed to be fourth dimensional from the Alpha Draconis star system. The dimensional levels are nothing but differing base rate wavelengths. The only difference between this dimension and any other is the length of its basic waveform. It's just like a television or radio set. When you turn the dial, you pick up a different wavelength, then you get a different image on your TV screen or different station on your radio. It is exactly the same for the dimensional levels. They're separated by wavelengths per second. Many victims of satanic ritual abuse in which they have witnessed children being skinned, dismembered, tortured, and have their blood consumed by Luciferians and Satanists claim an energetic environment of destructive life force energy is created, allowing the entities to interface their consciousness with the 7.23 centimeter wavelength, spawning in their reptilian form in the room of the ritual.
During a ritual, these old ones are called out, and they are what Christianity would have called the demons. They are called out, and there is a circle that is, it has a hexagon in there, which is a powerful occultic symbol, and then there is a pentagram, and then there in the middle of that there is a triangle, and if you're the one calling them out, then you stand in the triangle so that you're not devoured or taken by these creatures that come out.
That creates an energy field around you which they can't penetrate.
They can't penetrate it, and they cannot get outside the pentagram. And they want out. They're always demanding to be let out. And so you have to be very powerful to keep them in line and to make them go back when it is time for them to go back.
Why do they want to manifest these quote demons at the rituals?
It brings power to the rituals. It brings power to them. They are told things by these entities, and they are encouraged to go on with what they're doing, and knowledge is imparted to them through these entities. But it takes a person with the ability to bring them out and make them answer, because they don't want to cooperate. They have to cooperate when the right person has control over them.
And that's to do with that person's energy and ability to use
Right,
energy.
yes.
One of the things they're doing in these rituals, and I've talked to people who've taken part in them, often against their will, what they're doing is they're creating an energy bridge between the entities, the reptilian entities and other entities that operate just outside visible light. The rituals are there to create an energetic bridge which allows them to enter this dimension and be seen and to be interacted with. And one of the ways is that symbol you see in Satanism, which is the pentagram with a circle round it, and other symbols, because we see them as symbols, but they have an effect on the energy field. If you could see it on an energetic level, you would see something very different that symbol is, geometrical symbol is creating, and it's through these symbols that they bring them through energetically into this dimension and interact with them. And the hierarchy of Satanism, hierarchy of Illuminati, is based on the power of the demonic entities, as people call them, that you allow to take over your body. This is where the whole thing comes from, of selling your soul to the devil. You get the power and the prestige within this world up to a point, but you give yourself over to these demonic entities before you get that power.
It's believed that fourth dimensional grids have been created by the reptilians and placed over the planet, which collects the life force energy. The alleged grid is known as a reversal grid. It is allegedly a fourth dimensional alien AI machine structure. The direction of destructive life force energy collected through the so-called reversal grids is said to be hierarchical and managed by the Alpha Draconians. It's believed the reptilians have created technology known as holographic inserts. These are said to be implemented through radio waves that form frequencies which transmit into the person's unconscious mind into their bioenergetic field. These holographic inserts are real or false memories believed to be projected onto our minds for destruction. For example, the reptilians who exist outside of our wavelength could be surrounding us at any point in time. We just can't see them because they exist on a higher wavelength. They then insert a holographic insert. The insert stimulates the nervous system with artificial stimulus to control the nerves and transmitters to promote any thought form, emotional state, or addictive state they want, so the insert remains in the target. Since motor neurons control the flow of neurotransmitters to the brain as well as muscle twitches, the insert can stimulate responses of rage, anger, anxiety, agitation, and addiction. Images and thought forms are believed to be projected onto the human subject, which then control the perception of the subject. The inserts can trigger a person to commit certain destructive behaviors or criminal acts. From the lower fourth dimension, the reptilians are believed to use holographic inserts which project ideas or images onto our minds based on the destructive vices of the human range of the third dimension. These are then used to harvest more destructive life force energy. These false or real memories are used against us to then edit the timeline we live in. So all this information is based on if the reptilians are an actual living life form entity existing in the lower fourth dimension. So there might actually be entities within the lower fourth dimension which people have labeled as demons. However, like us, all they are is consciousness. When they appear as orbs, they are appearing as their pure form of consciousness. When they want to scare or abduct people, they take shape as within the fourth dimension, thought is creation. So much like the belief system territories, these consciousness are creating their lower fourth dimensional reality through collective thought. The lowest areas of the fourth dimension are like a copy of this world but are ethereal and created by collective thought. This is known as consensus reality. When we sleep and dream, we go to the lower astral plane. Those who pass on with religious beliefs congregate in the middle astral plane. These areas are created by passed on consciousness who congregate in collective thought, creating a facsimile of the third dimension based on their religious beliefs. For example, those who are Christians will congregate and manifest with figures such as saints and Jesus, while manifesting the pearly gates and other Christian-based beliefs of a human-based heaven. We are taking shape in the third dimension by the use of our physical bodies, creating our reality through collective thought or consensus reality. Those who claim they have seen these reptilians and have drawn what they saw, although they look similar, hence like reptiles, they do not all look the same. Now you could say these are different types of reptilians that people are drawing. Or, think of it like this, they can only appear to the humans as images the humans have already perceived. Much like in dreams, you can only see imagery you have already seen in waking life, otherwise you wouldn't be able to comprehend it. Therefore, when their consciousness takes form, they use primal base fears of the humans to deceive them and interact. This can be seen from an encounter Alex Collier had. He claimed he is a contactee of fifth dimensional human beings. However, the fifth dimension goes beyond the human thought capacity, the realms of energy and light. They also claim to be from Andromeda, but as described earlier, this becomes redundant as the dimensions are superimposed, so it is only a matter of perception. Alex claims that entities appear to him as pale blue human beings. Blue is a color of deception. He claimed when he was younger, he had an experience with them. They appeared to him in his bedroom. Alex claimed his dad saw a bright light appearing underneath his bedroom door, so opened the door slightly to check on Alex. The day after, Alex claimed his father told him he saw several orbs floating around in his room. This was as, to his dad, he couldn't comprehend them as he had no reference point. Therefore, they appeared as their consciousness.
I had one contact when I was 16. I was 16 and we were living in Pound Ridge, New York. I can remember being brought back and put to bed. And as this was occurring, my dad, who was a very late snacker, he used to get up in the middle of the night and go downstairs and have a snack. My dad said he saw a light underneath my door. And I think I've spoken about this, but maybe not given all the details. So he opened the door because he thought maybe I was up reading with a flashlight or something. And he said he saw me being floating in the air just above my bed and being put to bed. And this light bulb was floating around the room. And it looked right at him. And he says and he told me, he goes, it looked right at me. He goes, and then it just kind of meandered through the window. But I mean through the window. He said it didn't go through an open window, it just went through the window.
Simon Parkes claims to be a contactee of fourth dimensional reptilians and mantids. These mantids have been described by contactees and abductees as 7-foot praying mantises who wear purple colored robes. Once again, notice how these so-called aliens are appearing to people based on the ranges of human thought capacity, such as reptiles, insects, humanoids, and so on. If these aliens are real, all they are is consciousness trapped in the lower fourth dimension. They appear to humans based on the perspective of the capacity of the person's mind so they can interact with them. These consciousness only react with people who are in a state of consciousness which allows the interaction with them by resonating on the same vibratory level. We will now take a look at if they are not real but the experiences are perceived as real as they are created by human thought forms. If you have an out-of-body experience and you are in a fearful state of consciousness, then you will start to manifest human-based predatory fears as you have entered into the astral plane with a fearful state of mind. The fourth dimension is also known as the astral plane, which has been dubbed as the belief system territories. Here, like attracts like and thought becomes creation, so any thought you have will manifest. When people have entered the astral plane in an altered state of consciousness, such as by the use of drugs, they report seeing snakes and other predators. This is as they have entered the plane in a fearful or anxious state of consciousness. So if you enter this plane with the religious beliefs of devils or demons, then you are more likely to manifest them. The only thing you carry with you after death or during an out-of-body experience is your state of consciousness, not your body or ego. The fourth dimension is made up of the belief system that you still continue to be your body or personality in which you was named at birth. However, all you are and ever have been is consciousness. So the idea is that these entities are self-created but do exist in the lower fourth dimension in demonic realms created by religious belief systems. So due to the human belief in them, they're created by thought forms developing a life of their own. This is as every thought form creates life force energy. As energy can never be destroyed, every thought or fantasy you've ever had, whether constructive or destructive, exists somewhere within the other dimensions. So producing destructive life force energy by believing in demons or aliens will increase their lifespan as they manifest in the fourth dimension. The higher fourth dimension and the last parts up to the fifth are known as the edge of human thought capacity. Once we go beyond this, we go beyond form and return to energy which is non-form based, simply our consciousness. This is what we all truly are, intelligent energetic waveforms of awareness, also known as consciousness. Now, there is another theory behind these entities. Some claim they're a psyop created by those who rule the world, dubbed as the Illuminati. Psyops are operations to convey selected information and indicators to audiences to influence their emotions, motives, and objective reasoning, and ultimately the behavior of governments, organizations, groups, and individuals. An example of this can be seen in 1984 when a fraudulent document known as the Eisenhower Briefing Document was published in a popular UFO magazine. The plan behind the document was to implement an indoctrination onto the public for a government narrative of aliens to warp perception. The document claimed existence of an alleged secret committee of scientists, military leaders, and government officials formed in 1947 by an executive order by US President Harry S. Truman to facilitate recovery and investigation of alien spacecraft. However, after quick analysis of the executive order stated, the document proved to be fraudulent. Many other alien psyop operations have been carried out in the past. The idea is that the reptilians, mantids, greys and others are being used as an external threat for us to give over our sovereignty to the elite. Therefore, if we believe in them and fear them, more destructive life force energy is created through fear. So why would they use a psyop of an alien narrative? There is a conspiracy that they will use this in a false flag event. A false flag is a covert operation designed to deceive. The deception creates the appearance of a particular party, group, or nation being responsible for some activity, disguising the actual source of responsibility. Some claim 9/11 was a false flag event carried out by the deep state of the United States of America, which was blamed on Osama bin Laden. There is a conspiracy that the deep state Illuminati will use an alien psyop to install the final false flag. This is known as Project Bluebeam. This is a conspiracy theory which states the alien psyop will be used against us by using holographic technology to fake an alien invasion. So did 9/11 energetically feed aliens? If these lower fourth dimensional entities really do exist, then yes it did, as they use destructive life force energy to increase their lifespans. However, if the entities are just a figment of our imagination, then no, they did not feed the entities. However, it still did have an effect on our thought forms and the planetary field as described earlier. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, then be sure to give it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to keep updated with all my future videos. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, goodbye.